Welcome everyone back to D&E TAKEOVER. Today we got a Super Bowl 42 champion. You know him as the infamous helmet catch, Mr. David Tyree. Round of applause, Mr. David Tyree, guys. Round of applause.
Big shout. How we doing?
Absolute legend in the building right now. And just before we get into it, I just want to say thank you for the memories. Thank you for the absolute memories. I remember watching that in my basement, like thinking, geez, we're going to lose to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden that helmet catch happened. I'm like, the heavens above sent a blessing. 100%.
That's right, baby. That's right. It was big blue heaven shining down.
Yes, sir. 100%. But the first, really, I just want to get into that helmet catch, that drive going into literally that 2-minute warning with Eli Manning. What was the huddle like? You were down by 4 points, 2 minutes left. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, I know it's always a little bit different for everybody. I mean, I'm so locked in. There's very few things that kind of it's a little bit of laser focus for me. What's the play? What's my job? What's my role? But at the end of the day, is you knew what it was. We needed a touchdown. There's not that much to think about as far as going forward. All the intricacies of high end coaching, right? But yeah, I mean, play calls up. He is who he is. Easy E, right? High school vein. So he was that. He was locked in. And that's kind of what you really got the sense of throughout the entire drive. And obviously with the play, it was dialed up. 76 Max YSL Union. Got a post over the top. Steve Smith outbreaking right route. Nice call against 42 coverage. But none of that mattered. Offensive line blocked no one and set us up for the miraculous.
Yes, sir. But like just a person just watching that, I was like I said before, I was like, we're gonna lose this game. There's no way it's gonna happen. Like I was so invested. Like literally 6-7-year-old me was like, screaming at the TV, like, oh no! And all of a sudden they break. Eli Manning is about to get sacked, and I'm like, Super Bowl's over. And then all of a sudden he breaks out. Like, you ever talk to that with Eli? Like, what was he thinking? Like, you just throw the ball, not get sacked, right?
You know what? We never had obviously we had a couple moments through the years where there's, I don't know if it's a documentary or a show, or whatever, where you get his thoughts, usually separate. I think we may have been in the room one time talking about the play, but I think he's just trying to make a play, and obviously old school Eli, that was Eli Manning before his mane kind of grew in, right? Like he was arriving to the quarterback that he became. And that was probably the defining moment of that kind of big playmaking leadership type of moment where I call he went Vanilla Vic on us. You know what I mean? Like you could, back then you could blow on Eli, man. You could just blow on him and he would fall, fumble, and do something crazy.
Yep.
Obviously, there's two miracles in one play because I'm like the black guy who can't jump. So, it's just like I said, it's why sports exist. Plays like that, moments like that. You probably will never get another narrative quite like that in the Super Bowl. And I think that's what makes it the most iconic play.
Most definitely. But like when you went up for the ball, right? I know your main focus is catching it, coming down and just trying to get that ball. But what was your mindset? Because obviously I read your book. It's a spectacular book. Everyone who hasn't checked it out, go check it out. The Catch by David Tyree. It's spectacular.
We're going to have some new stuff coming this year.
Awesome. I can't wait. But in your head, in the book, you said that basically time stood still. You felt like it was slow motion in that moment. But what was going through your head? Like, obviously catch the football, but I just want to hear what your thoughts were.
Yeah, the most obvious, right? I always make the reference to Chariots of Fire. It's like the Energizer sound is things in slow motion. I'm an older dude now. There was a show back in the day called Bionic Man, Bionic Woman. It had this real slow, sound or tune in the flick. And it was kind of one of those moments where it's up there, it's hanging up there. And honestly, you're going through like traditional stuff. I got a high pointed, catching at the highest point. And I did all that. I mentally was thinking, I'm not going to be open for long, so I got to be prepared to get hit. So that served me well. That thought served me well because obviously just as soon as I feel like I got it, then comes the collision. And all I knew was I had it. I didn't know it was on my head. I just knew I got it. And for a guy like myself, too few opportunities come to make a play, period. So I knew I had to make the play. That was it.
Most definitely. It's just spectacular also because you made that catch over Rodney Harrison. And a lot of people, like the younger generation like myself, Like I know football a little bit. I don't know obviously as much as you, but I've watched the game, and that guy was a beast as at the safety position. So like, you made that catch over him out of all people.
Yeah, it was definitely the irony, right? And there was so many things when you think about the underdog. You think about somebody like myself who was not known. I'm not a household name. I'm not a household receiver. He's an all pro safety. He's an all pro safety. He should definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Got it the right way, tenacious, the last person you're expecting that have that play be made on. So I think that's what it makes it so amazing to me. And I tell, like I know Rodney had a tough time. Listen, man, get over it, man. Like this is my one moment. You probably, it took one moment to validate my growth as a player. And I just know that it was a God moment for me. At the end of the day, it was like, that was that moment that all the stars aligned so that I could kind of have that place of wholeness and validation because I was climbing and always working towards something. So yeah, man, he got to get over it. Hopefully he gets his yellow jacket. You know what I mean? My helmet's in the Hall of Fame. Maybe one day his bust will be in the Hall of Fame. I'm good.
Maybe you ever send him a DM or a text and be like, "Hi, I got you."
Nah, man. Like I knew it took him a long time to get over that. I know he gets ragged on TV about it every now and then. And it's good. It's good. Like grow up, like
that's over, man. That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. But I have another question about that. I saw in your podcast, Catch the Moment podcast, which I watch. It's a great podcast. Everyone should check that out on Spotify. Like I saw you do an interview with Plaxico Burress, and for anyone to know, Plaxico Burress caught the game-winning touchdown in that same drive. And you mentioned to him that Plaxico Burress has that ball, correct?
Yeah, he does. I gotta shake my head before I say yes. Yeah. You would think it's kind of like one of those things. I know it's an old movie for y'all, but Friday was a classic movie. And he's like, "Hey, man, it could be like both eyes. We could just keep it in my house, right?" And that's kind of how you would think that a good friend would share the moment. Obviously he scored the touchdown. It was a game-winning touchdown, and I don't even know at the time that it's this iconic play. But I do have a touchdown ball, and I tried to trade with him. He wasn't into that.
I think he should give it back to you.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping, I'm believing, man. Like, I believe in miracles. Maybe God will change his heart.
Definitely. But you wanna?
Yes, I do want to ask. I do want to get my questions into. Then I just want to thank you for giving us the time to talk to you. But we're both, I would say, aspiring athletes as well, right? Love sports in general. That's why we do this podcast as a whole. But I kind of just want to pick your brain in the sense of like, what did it take to become a pro? Because a lot of kids, as growing up nowadays, it's kind of like about what we hear is it's about who you know. It's about the connections that you make, and a lot of kids work hard but don't get seen in that sense. So like I wanted to kind of like pick your brain in the sense of what did you have to do, or what would you say to everyone out there, including us? Like what did it take to become a pro?
It's a great question. I think your generation has far more opportunities than kids in my generation in relation to exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say as much as about who you know. I think it's about your commitment, your discipline, and ultimately you have to be gifted. You really there comes to a point in some measure where you just have to have the sauce, and so there's not enough. The 10,000 hour rule is something that Malcolm Gladwell made famous. 10,000 hours, you become an expert.
Yep.
Yeah, great, good. You can be really polished, but if you're not tall enough, if you're not strong enough, and I'm just saying that in general. There's always some exceptional cases, right? So there's always what's Darren Sproles, right? Like 5'7", one of the best ever to play the game.
I love that dude.
But at the end of the day, you got to have the sauce, and I think the cream rises to the top. The cream will always rise to the top, and that's why even somebody like myself, I kind of get crowned with my moment. I was never that guy, but I think that my commitment, my focus, my discipline, the heart, my willingness to do other things that other people weren't willing to do, special teams, right? That's what created the opportunity to have that moment of validation, even though I knew I could play at this league, play at a high level. So I was never Plaxico Burress or Monty Toomer. Those guys were fantastic. They were skilled. They had things, but I knew that I could flourish. And I think you got to have a sense of awareness, but also you got to dream beyond any perceived limitations within or from without.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I feel like a lot of kids with our generation now, they get discouraged by the harshest of criticisms. And I feel like when you look at life, like back in the day, I know my parents and like your parents as well, like they handle tough times different than how our generation does. We get upset about it and we post it on social media and we cry on TikTok and all this stuff.
That's
You know what I mean?
100% though.
I feel like back in the day, it's like you had to do it. If you had a dream, you had to do it. There's no excuses.
Yep.
Honestly.
And that's life. I think life will teach you, and obviously I'm raising children. My oldest is 21, my youngest is 9. So I'm raising children on the same hand. And I think you guys have there's two realities. You have your reality perception based, internet based, social media based, and that's a place where community exists. But it's also a very distant community. It's not always consistent with what's really true in the human experience. And I often say when I was young, I was out here in these streets. Now kids out here in these cyber streets, right? So, but the streets taught us something different. When you got punched in the mouth, you felt that.
Yeah.
Now you get punched in the mouth emotionally on social media. So, and that's kind of where some of the instability lies or the challenges lie, because when someone says something, it still hurts, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, when you get punched in the mouth, it hurts different.
100%. It's like what Mike Tyson just said. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's the whole idea, is that recognizing. And I tell people, you have to believe the people that matter. You don't have to believe the people that say things.
Mm-hmm.
And your family matters in some regard, right? The people who are credible in what they do, people who have high character, people that you aspire to be like. And I think that's kind of the guiding light, guiding knowledge that people want to walk away with in this generation. Take advantage of the community that exists and build a community, things like podcasts, social. I get it. But also don't take stock in it in a way where like this is a part of your emotional DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Real people, real matter, real relationships. You guys sitting next to each other is actually what matters more than anything.
There you go.
Yes, I have to say, like, going based on what you said, also, like a lot of things that like our generation kind of goes through is that we don't kind of understand sometimes when what's it called, that it's gonna be tough. You know what I mean? And it's gonna take work, and that's why it's like I wanted to like see like where what you thought of that situation holds. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, tons of work. There's no replacement for hard work, right? And what I will say about, there's two different things that will put you in line for maximizing opportunities for success. Hard work, and and I think that's every person can kind of get on board with what that is and what that looks like. It has maybe a different capacity for it, but everybody knows what it looks like, and people get a chance to measure whether you're a hard worker. And then there's sacrifice, like and sacrifice can be challenging because sacrifice is always at the expense of something else. So, you got to make the right sacrifice. I don't think the sacrifice is the wrong thing. You just got to make the right sacrifices. Sometimes people sacrifice and their families are at the tail end of that.
Yeah.
That has some ramifications. Doesn't mean it's always a bad thing. It means it could be if it's not properly communicated or vetted out.
Well said. One question I want to ask is, reading your book, for me, you had a lot of trials and tribulations that you had to go through to become the person you are today. So my really question to you is, if you ever had to go back, if there's an Elon Musk invents a time machine or something, I don't know, if you go back, would you change the course of your life, or would you be happy with the way it's going?
I would, like, I don't have regrets about the way my life has turned out, but I do have regrets about decisions that I made. I think those are two different things. Meaning, like, I don't think the goal is to try to be morally perfect. That's not really possible in that sense. I think the goal is to live a life of meaning, integrity, character, and virtue. Meaning, like, and I think success falls in line with that. A lot of my decisions were based on what I knew and experienced at the time, and they were faulty, they were naive, they were foolish, they were, in a spiritual way, sinful and dumb, and it bared its own fruit as I matured. And I eventually finally came to some conclusions that, hey man, I'm just not good at this. God, I need help. That's the summary of my journey to faith. And man, and life after that is filled with meaning, purpose, peace. I think things that every person is looking for. that I basically, I would like to say found me as much as I found it.
Mhm.
Found Christ.
One of the reasons, like, while reading your book is like, because I remember watching you as a player back in the day when I was younger, and it's like I feel like when we look at athletes nowadays, fans from the outside looking in, we just look at them as the athlete. We don't look at them as the human being. And I feel like when you opened up your heart and became vulnerable in this book, it really showed the character that you are and the great person that you are. And I really appreciate you like showing us this and showing you your human person. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I feel like I was probably ahead of the pack on. I wrote that book in 2008, and I didn't really have any shame about my past experiences, meaning like because it was no longer part of my story moving forward.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's something that most people have to work their way through. You do bad things. I think you should be ashamed when you do something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and we talk about a shame culture. Well, I'm not talking about shaming for shaming's sake. I'm talking about when you do things that are wrong, we need to properly put some measure of penalty on that so that we can change our behaviors and align with healthy culture, healthy relationships, healthy environment. And yeah, but when my life changed, it was no longer who I was moving forward, and my life was bearing a different kind of fruit as a better husband, father, athlete, leader, man, all those other things. And I think that's something that people can connect with, that sense of transparency and authenticity, and that's who I've been.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Nah, I just a piggyback of what David was saying. Also, it's like I give you extreme props just for the fact of like being able to open up to the public in general, because like he said, as an athlete, especially in a professional standpoint, we'll just, as like most fans just be like, just do what you need to do. And it's like when you make a mistake, they look at it as like, well, you're a professional, why can't you do that? You know what I mean? Why you're in the field. So like it's certain things like just showing us the other side of it, which is really important for other aspiring athletes as well, because we understand that it's like it's not just about just always football, 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 what you're doing. It's other things that you have to grow in as well.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's what creates the man that you are today. You know what I mean? And certain things like that. So I really appreciate you on that. But I do have one question I do want to ask, kind of like a fun question in a sense.
Yep.
Speaking of the helmet catch, obviously, you know what I mean? But I feel like we kind of already know the answer to this, but
I know the answer to it.
yeah, like I just want to ask just to have fun with it. Do you think that your helmet catch is the greatest catch of all time in NFL history? I just want to know. That's it.
Of course. Now in the last few years, I'm coming out a little bit more. I'm jumping on pods and having fun. And obviously doing a little bit of brand building. But I think it's unequivocally the best play in NFL history because now, as a standalone catch, I will say that there's tons of competition as a standalone catch. Yeah, 100%. Odell, Justin Jefferson this year, some standalone catches, man. Oof. But when you look at all the factors involved, man, I don't even know if anybody is really up there quite like that. Like the narrative, the story. And then when you look at Eli's part as a play, come on, man. So yeah, I think it's fun to talk about at this stage for me. I think I know that I don't have the career that backs up the catch, but who cares?
Yeah.
Still, the catch is the catch. Hey, you got a Super Bowl. That's all I think. Winning is the most important thing to me. So it's like you got that
100%.
done.
Not even that. You beat Tom Brady, that
Exactly.
perfect season from the Patriots.
There you go. Look at all the storylines. That's like I said, and there's a few more. There's a few more even in it.
Just like, has Tom Brady ever said anything to you after that catch, or he was just so mad he just rushed into the locker room?
I've never been in a celebrity culture like that. So like I don't float in those realm. I mean, like I was at the Super Bowl this year in Arizona, 15 years, celebrating the helmet catch. Got a bunch of work done with the pod. I'm work oriented. I'm purpose driven. So I don't dwell in those circles to be linking up with Tom like that. I did find out usually through social media he shaded me on the man in the arena, and so I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says "Say my name, Tom," because he was like that guy with the helmet catch. This guy, I'm like, I definitely got to get in the trolling game a little bit because he was like that guy. I'm like, no, you know my name.
Exactly. Well, he remembers that day very clearly.
Does. He definitely.
Yeah. I think I gotta make a T-shirt or something like that. Post it on the website. Say my name, Tom.
Most definitely. But you talk about that New York Giants team, that 2007 2008 team, that was a special team.
No
That was a
doubt.
really special team. And you looked in your book, you mentioned that they started off 0-2, your team.
Yep.
Like there was a little bit of funk in the locker room, and you wrote a letter, obviously talking about your faith and telling
Yep.
everyone, hey, how was that opening up to everyone about that, like just coming together?
It was a risk. It was a risk, and I think it was a risk that at that stage in my maturity and kind of like my leadership journey, it was a risk that I needed to take. I did the right things. I gave it to Coach Coughlin, just kind of let him know what I was thinking real quick. But at the end of the day, I felt like there was some special components that we had, and I also felt like there was some unique resistance too, right? And at the end of the day, anytime something profound can take place, there's usually some resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tiki with the narratives, New York City media, Eli Manning, they wanted stakes, they wanted heads on stakes. And so that was what prompted me to write it out. I just felt it burning. I missed the first 2 games with an injury. I wasn't able to go to war with the guys. And I got that out. And of course I would have loved for guys to check in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told them I had fellowship at the crib. We just kind of, obviously we don't get a chance to go to church on Sunday. So we did something on Monday. And I wish there's probably a few people responded to the letter, man. Like, yeah, man, it was cool. Like 3 dudes. And a couple people might have shown, like we always have people come through a handful of people come through on Monday. So that was cool. But it was more, I realized later it was more about my journey and my sense of boldness and faith and courage, becoming that leader in my own right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what it proved to be. And it was, having that letter was kind of like even a little bit of a memorial of my journey as a leader itself.
In that locker room, like after that 0-2 start, you guys made the playoffs in the wild card, and you guys were the underdog. Let's just face it, underdog. Yeah. And there's no better story than when the underdog wins. That's my favorite story to watch or even to read. But like you beat teams, you beat the Bucks in the wild card 24-14. You were expected to lose. Then you beat the Cowboys, division rivals. Real quick, as a New York Giant, how did it feel to beat the Cowboys?
Oh, that was fantastic, because we lost twice. I mean, we lost twice that year. Third time was a charm. And I think, it's the road to redemption, right? And obviously it feels better when you're going into people's house, spoiling the goods. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was. And honestly, you're not thinking about this as it plays out, but, starting in Tampa, then, and that's kind of like, it's weird anytime you go to Tampa because it's mad snowbirds down there, Giants fans all over the place. Then we go into, we actually redeemed the first 2 losses of the season where we got blew out in Dallas. And then eventually the next one is in Green Bay. We got blew out by them earlier. Let me get that back. So the road to redemption was like really, really sweet. And of course, that, the way we started the year with the loss, we ended the year against the undefeated Patriots. And now we get a chance to go against these guys and get that blood back. So, I mean, the story was just, it was everything. It was just everything. And for me, it was just, the goal is just to have a role, like just to make a play.
Yeah.
Block a punt, make a tackle inside the 20. And having that was having the victory, having a touchdown. Yeah, it was everything.
That's awesome. But like you beat the Packers at their own game in their weather. I believe, what was it, like negative degrees in that game?
With the wind chill, it was negative 22. It was definitely like the 3rd coldest game at that time.
Jesus.
It was stupid.
That's crazy. And you guys went into there and said, hold my beer. That's what you guys said.
Yeah, I got one more question really quick. Overall, again, like I like going from the standpoint of like just kind of like picking your brain in the sense of just an athlete as a whole, because I just admire the fact that professional.
We're obsessed.
Yeah, like literally, like this is what we do. We talk about sports on this podcast always. We would like to be a professional athletes, hopefully one day, and anything, I guess you could say like that. But I just want to say, like, in other words, what was kind of, if you had to pick one thing, what was like the biggest lesson you learned that kind of like helped you on and off the field from just playing football at the highest level that's known?
That's a tough one. I will say this: the way the way I've coined it these days, I've realized that self-awareness was my superpower. You know, my ability to be able to be honest about how good I was. And as you grow up, they have these things called SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And basically, being in performance allows you have to honestly be able to evaluate yourself, and that's where most athletes lose it. If you think too highly of yourself, you won't be humble enough to be teachable. And I think that I was confident but not arrogant, and that allowed me to just remain teachable throughout, and say I could walk in a room like, oh snap, this guy's better than me. What do I have to do to equalize? He's faster. Okay, what do I need to do to kind of position myself in light of this? And he's sexier, man. I'm a Toyota Camry. He's a Mercedes. So that was probably my superpower. That was kind of something. I'm actually going to the Bulls tomorrow. I'm going to talk to some employees with the Bulls and talk about this in relation to integrity. So I think that as an athlete, you're going to be judged on performance. But if you can't assess who you are and what you bring to the table, be aware of what your weaknesses might be, then you're gonna miss opportunities to really accelerate and package yourself to the best of your ability.
That the self-awareness part, I feel like
that's a big thing.
That's a big thing. Obviously, a big problem with our generation. Yeah, we get so cocky. Like we think we're better than everyone else.
It's insane. Well, I'm gonna tell you why. It makes sense. You guys have the opportunity to go and use all these mediums to create all this influence. And influence gives you power, and power, is like Lord of the Rings, right? It's like man and power. We got this bad relationship with glory and power, and that's the poison of the generation. And I understand it. So now I'm just understanding of what the pitfalls are with my young people. So I'm not as hard as maybe some of our groggy, people who didn't have these opportunities. We got haters, right? So I mean, like these young folks out here with millions of followers, they got platforms. So you have to realize that at the end of the day, who cares? You're not really that dude if you can't go out here and actually execute something in real time, right? Those people don't really care about you. They just care about the little thrills and perks that you provide. And you have to be consistent and be able to separate the two.
100%.
Yeah, I like just going back on what you said too. It's like everyone they take like put it together. Everyone thinks that they're like Tom Brady, I guess you could say, or everyone thinks that they're like the best ever. Definitely. You know what I mean? And something that I like to say that we always talk about is like there's a difference between confidence and cockiness. Yep. Right? And there's a difference between being confident and cocky. In other words, so it's very important to like hear that from you as well, because that's like when you said between confident and being arrogant, that's what I kind of like related it as. It's like a lot of our generation is cocky in the sense that they think they're amazing, but then it's good to have confidence, but you can't turn into that. So like just hearing that from you again, that's good to hear and everything, and just to pick your brain as like a professional athlete.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
You played for the Baltimore Ravens. If you don't, that's Eric's favorite team.
I'm a huge Baltimore Ravens fan.
Hey,
huge Lamar fan.
Yeah,
everything, man.
I'm a Giants fan. I like the New York Jets. I'm a New Yorker. I got the Eli jersey in the back.
Too, bro.
I got the Memorial.
Nice.
Pepsi thing.
Somebody hooked me up with a nice little NYG Yeti.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, let me bring that in. But they hooked it up when I opened my store. There you go.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
That's nice. This one's when the Giants won, and
he's a big
classic.
Yeah. But those things I hold on for bragging rights, obviously, because why not? I can brag to him all the time that the Giants have more Super Bowls than the Baltimore Ravens.
Sorry, the casual of our podcast. It's just always the same thing consistently. Always. But we love it though.
But since you played for the Baltimore Ravens, and you retired, obviously you signed a one-day contract, I believe, with the New York Giants, and you retired with that team. But you got injured at one part during your season. I believe it was the 2008 season, I believe, where you got injured.
Yeah, I was actually had like an impromptu injury, meaning like right after the Super Bowl was actually the real injury. So maybe a month after the greatest moment of my life, and this is kind of like I look forward to writing another book. Because the stories, my story after the catches is actually probably far more intriguing because as much as I think I was prepared for all the opportunity as a person, I guess I could say God didn't have it in the cards. As much as the same God that glorified me, it was kind of like this injury was the beginning of my decline. So a month and a half, I'm going to get a nice little workout. I'm preparing to take this moment. This is something to build off of. Of course, now I have the confidence and the validation of my teammates and organization. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in a stool, pick up some lotion, and my knee locks up. So that was the beginning of, I had to get a meniscus repair, 4 to 6 months, put me in line with kind of like a training camp, rehab start time. And then I started having some, I think it was some soft tissue injuries as I came off of that. So that's kind of what was the tumbling factor. Missed the 08 season on IR because of those soft tissue injuries. Then I get cut, which allowed me to get picked up by the Ravens in 09.
But then you retired shortly after. Did you know your time was up? Like, how was that transition to retirement? Because I feel like a lot of athletes nowadays, like speaking of Tom Brady as one, like it struggles with like leaving the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough. I felt like having that injury in that year and a half of trying to restore, just kind of get back to that place. It was almost like I was getting stripped within that 2 years. And that Ravens season was kind of like I was climbing back to the place where I was a good special teams player again. And so obviously the helmet catch is my last catch, but when I came back home, I still wanted to play, but at the same time, I was considering like, hey man, are you willing to go through this whole I was probably for at least a month. I'm over here, have to train every day, going to workouts, go work out here with the Rams, work out here with the Ravens, work out with Tampa Bay. It's like, but at the same time, I got 4 beautiful kids at home. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my family. I'm waiting. I was kind of like at war with the work that I had to do just to be on call. I didn't love that part of it. I love the game. I love being in the mix of it, being in the mix of the locker room. So when I came home, I had some teams that said they were interested. And basically by the time summertime came around, it was very easy for me to say, I'm good. 7 seasons. This career was never supposed to happen in this way. All pro, special teams player, Super Bowl champion.
Sure.
It was just what I accomplished in 7 seasons. Most people never get on their resume in general. So I felt like it was complete. 7 happened to be the number of completion. So I felt real good about it. It was just like I had a lot of peace. And I think most players in their transition phase, they're probably not at peace. They got, they kind of you get spewed out, right? You usually don't leave on your own terms. And not that I necessarily left on my own terms. I was content with what I had accomplished. So I had a different viewpoint, and my identity was very much in places that were secure. Like, man, I'm working to be a great husband, great father. And as much as I enjoyed the game and loved the game, I had my identity in places, especially in Christ, apart from the game of football. I saw myself, a lot of players, they see themselves as a football player. So, and if that's what you say you are, then that's all you are, right? And I think that's the challenge when we own certain things that we do as our identity. So yeah, part of my brand, one of my sayings is be well, do well. Because if you focus on who you are, then you could always do whatever you're going to do, right? So if we're not human doings, we're human beings. So be well, do well, right? And I think and when you live from the framework of who you are, then whatever you do has the ability to flourish.
Well said. Well said. I got one more question. It's about the recent NFL right now. Like, Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about Patrick Mahomes being the greatest quarterback, potentially being the greatest quarterback of all time. Do you think that he can get to that level?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think it'll take as long as it took Tom Brady.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, Tom Brady to me is the undisputed greatest of all time. I think that what Patrick Mahomes is trending toward, if let's just imagine he stays on this track for the next 5 years, he's going to be the greatest of all time.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of like, let's just look at what he's done here in 5 years. It's that exceptional. He's clearly right now that guy, the greatest in the game.
Yeah.
And he's I think we all acknowledge in Jordan year 2023. Yeah, it made sense. I called him as a preseason favorite to win both the Super Bowl and NFL MVP. He's killing.
Now, sorry, one more question about the New York Giants, real quick, if you have time.
Yep, real quick.
They have Daniel Jones up for contract, right? Saquon Barkley's up for contract. What do the Giants do with those two guys?
You want Daniel Jones at the right price, and I think I just started hearing recently the last couple of days he's looking for 40. I let Daniel Jones walk 40 plus. He can walk out the door. I like the temperament of Joe Shane, and of course this is one of the best culture turnarounds I've seen in years. I've been around the game since 2003 at the professional level, and I think you want him back at the right price. He's earned the right. I don't think he's earned the right to command 40 plus million though.
Yeah.
So and I think that's where they got to stand. It allows you to sign Saquon, and basically continue to build for the future. Hey man, y'all are good, man. We'll figure out sometime in the future, man. Y'all keep grinding. Y'all out here killing the game.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
No doubt.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Crushing it, fellas.
See ya.
And that just concluded our David Tyree interview with the Super Bowl 42 champion, the helmet catch. If you guys like this and want to see more interviews with celebrities or athletes in the future, make sure you like and hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure you follow for more. And also, follow our Instagram is official_DE_takeover. Say it again, official_DE_takeover. And follow all of our socials. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Patreon and all that fun stuff. TikTok, everything.
All the links will be
in the description below. Make sure you guys follow that for more updates on when we talk to athletes. And make sure you like this and grow the brand so that we can continue talking to inspiring people like this in the future.
And also, let us know, who you want to see next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We could work our magic. And see
we'll see what we try. I mean, we got David Tyree. Let's see who we can get next. You know what I'm saying?
But overall, it was great. I'm glad that we did this.
And I appreciate it. Also, this personal thank you just to David Tyree,
100%.
just to taking the time out of
Thank
his
you,
day.
Mr. Tyree.
We appreciate you so much.
But without further ado, it's been your boy David.
And it's been your boy Eric.
And we are out. Tune into the next episode on Monday and Thursdays. Peace!